How would you react if someone you trusted, a teacher, a mentor, a coach, was suddenly accused of betraying that trust in the worst possible way? That's the question people in one Illinois town have been forced to ask themselves after the arrest of Christina Formella, a 30-year-old teacher and soccer coach, once seen as a respected figure in her community. Authorities say Formella, who worked at Downers Grove South High School, is now facing a staggering list of felony charges after being accused of engaging in an inappropriate relationship with one of her teenage students. The case has drawn national attention, not only for the sheer number of charges, but also because it raises difficult questions about trust, boundaries, and the protection of young people in school environments. When the allegations first surfaced earlier this year, many people in the Downers Grove community didn't know what to believe. Some described Formella as dedicated and friendly, the kind of teacher who seemed to genuinely care about her students. Others recalled moments that, in hindsight, now felt unsettling. According to court filings, investigators began looking into Formella after a report was made alleging misconduct between her and a student. At first, it seemed like it might have been an isolated claim. But when police began searching through digital records and devices, what they say they found painted a much more disturbing picture. Prosecutors alleged that between early 2023 and late 2024, Formella and the student maintained contact both during and outside of school hours. They claimed the pair exchanged private messages, met on school grounds after hours, and in some cases, communicated through apps designed to delete messages automatically, including Snapchat, which has since become a major focus of the investigation. In March 2025, police moved in to make the arrest. Body camera footage later released by investigators showed officers approaching Formella near her vehicle. She appeared confused as they explained that she was being taken into custody. The officers allowed her to collect her belongings before escorting her to a patrol car. At one point, she reportedly said she felt like she was going to be sick. That moment marked the beginning of what has now become one of the most closely watched criminal cases in Illinois this year. Following her arrest, prosecutors formally charged her with multiple counts of criminal sexual assault and aggravated criminal sexual abuse, serious felonies that carry significant prison time if convicted. As the case developed, additional evidence emerged, leading to an even longer list of accusations. By the summer of 2025, a grand jury had returned 52 new counts, bringing the total to 55 criminal charges, including allegations of grooming and indecent solicitation. Investigators claim that the relationship between Formella and the student lasted for more than a year and included dozens of encounters, many of which allegedly took place on school property. The news stunned the community. Parents demanded to know how something like this could happen inside a public school, a place where children are supposed to be safe. School officials quickly confirmed that Formella had resigned from her position and surrendered her teaching license. The local school district released a short statement emphasizing that it was fully cooperating with law enforcement and reviewing its policies to ensure stronger safeguards for students going forward. For those who knew the victim and his family, this was an emotional and devastating development. The case has also sparked broader conversations online about the responsibility teachers have and the long-term effects that inappropriate relationships can have on students, especially when there's a clear imbalance of power. As we dive deeper into this story, remember, everyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. This video aims to inform and discuss the facts of an ongoing case. Respectfully and responsibly, we will not be showing or discussing any explicit details, and the privacy of those involved, especially the minor victim, will be protected at all times. If you appreciate true crime content that's handled with care, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications. Your support helps keep stories like this informative, ethical, and respectful to victims and their families. Now, let's continue exploring what led up to this shocking case and how investigators claim to have built such a massive digital trail of evidence against Christina Formella. When detectives began piecing together what really happened between Christina Formella and the student, their focus quickly shifted toward digital forensics. Phones, laptops, and social media accounts became the center of their investigation, Because in modern cases like this, almost everything leaves a trail somewhere online. Authorities executed several search warrants to recover data from messaging apps and cloud backups. What they reportedly uncovered was an enormous amount of information, thousands of texts, pictures, and online interactions. Prosecutors later told the court they were analyzing about 6 terabytes of material. To put that in perspective, that's the digital equivalent of millions of pages of documents. Much of the data, investigators say, came from Snapchat and text messages, platforms known for deleting content quickly. Recovering those messages required cooperation from the companies involved and the use of advanced forensic tools. Each recovered file had to be cataloged, reviewed, and cross-checked against phone carrier records to determine when and where the communications took place. As the files were analyzed, prosecutors said certain exchanges appeared to show affectionate and personal language that went far beyond what's appropriate between a teacher and a student. These findings became a cornerstone of the prosecution's argument, evidence, they claim, of an ongoing relationship hidden behind ordinary technology. However, Formella's defense has pushed back strongly. Her attorney maintains that the messages have been misunderstood or even fabricated. They argue that the student had access to her phone at one point and could have sent or saved messages to make it look like something inappropriate had occurred. In one interview, Formella reportedly told police she believed she was being manipulated, that she was the target of an elaborate setup. Those competing claims are what make this case so complex. It's not just about what investigators found, it's about how that information was gathered, preserved, and interpreted. Digital evidence can be powerful, but it also requires context. One message or note taken out of sequence can completely change how a conversation appears. In court, prosecutors explained that each file must go through a detailed chain of custody review to ensure that it hasn't been altered. That review process is one reason this case has moved so slowly. Every document, text, or digital note must be shared with the defense under a process known as discovery. Observers who've attended the hearings say the courtroom atmosphere has remained calm and procedural. There's no shouting or drama, just attorneys quietly discussing timelines and evidence. Both families are usually present, Formella's husband and relatives on one side, and the student's family on the other. Each appearance lasts only a few minutes, but the emotional weight is heavy. At the most recent hearing, prosecutors confirmed that their review of the evidence is still ongoing. They told the judge they expect to finish before the next scheduled court date in January 2026. The defense has said it needs time to receive complete copies of the digital files, all 6 terabytes of them, before it can prepare its response. Outside the courtroom, people continue to debate what this case says about accountability in education. How could someone in a position of trust end up facing such accusations? And what safeguards are needed to ensure this never happens again? Local parents have called for stronger digital monitoring policies in schools and more open communication channels for students who might feel uncomfortable. Experts in child protection say that awareness and education are the first lines of defense, that teaching young people to recognize boundary violations early can prevent situations from escalating. For now, though, the case of Christina Formella remains in legal limbo. The prosecution is still reviewing evidence. The defense is preparing its counterarguments, and the community waits, hoping that the truth, whatever it is, will come out once the trial finally begins. When police finally confronted Christina Formella, it wasn't during some dramatic chase or surprise arrest. It happened quietly. Investigators had already spent weeks gathering digital evidence, interviewing witnesses, and confirming timelines. Once the arrest warrant was ready, officers went to her home, where she was taken into custody without incident. According to police records, she appeared visibly shaken during the process. She cooperated fully, answering questions but maintaining her innocence. The body cam footage later, released to the public, shows a subdued moment, not anger or resistance, but disbelief. Officers were professional, trying to make the situation as calm as possible. At one point, an officer can be heard offering her a tissue, noticing how overwhelmed she seemed. The exchange was quiet, almost surreal. a reminder that behind every criminal case are human beings, all affected in different ways. Once booked, Formella faced a series of serious charges related to alleged misconduct with a student. She was later released under specific bond conditions, including restrictions on contact and employment. Court documents show that she immediately lost her position as a high school teacher and that her professional teaching license was suspended pending the outcome of the trial. From that point forward, Formella's life changed completely. Friends and former colleagues described her as private but ambitious, someone who had always seemed devoted to her. Students and family, those who knew her personally, said they were shocked to hear the accusations, while others expressed disappointment and concern, especially given the gravity of the charges. Her husband and close relatives have not spoken publicly about the case, though they've reportedly been present at nearly every court appearance, often sitting quietly in the back of the courtroom. Meanwhile, the student's family has asked for privacy, and local news outlets have honored that request by withholding the teen's name and personal details. As part of their investigation, detectives discovered digital notes allegedly written by Formella, entries they described as reflective and emotional. One note, according to police reports, expressed regret and frustration about a relationship that had caused deep turmoil. Another seemed to describe her attempts to move forward and live her best life, suggesting she wanted to rebuild her confidence and sense of purpose. These notes became a significant part of the case file, though the defense maintains they've been taken out of context. Formella's attorney has argued that the writings represent private, emotional reflections, not confessions, and that their meaning has been distorted by investigators. They insist she never intended harm and that the communications in question were misinterpreted. In late 2025, prosecutors confirmed that the case remains active but unresolved. The court has yet to set a trial date, mainly because of the vast amount of digital evidence being reviewed, those same 6 terabytes of data still under examination. Legal analysts following the case say that once the review is complete, both sides will likely begin pretrial motions, where the defense may challenge the admissibility of certain messages or notes. If the case proceeds to trial, it's expected to draw major public attention. Cases involving educators and students often do, not just because of the scandal, but because they raise tough questions about ethics, power dynamics, and accountability. However, it's important to remember that Formella has pleaded not guilty, and under U.S. law, she remains presumed innocent unless proven otherwise. The final outcome will depend entirely on what the court decides, once all evidence has been presented. As of now, Christina Formella is still awaiting her next court appearance, scheduled for early 2026. Prosecutors say they're confident in their case, while the defense insists the truth will clear her name. For the families involved, on both sides, the waiting has been the hardest part. Each new hearing brings uncertainty, but also hope that closure might be getting closer. This case has drawn national attention not just because of the allegations, but because it highlights how technology, relationships, and professional boundaries can collide in devastating ways. It's a reminder that actions online leave traces, and that those traces can shape real lives forever. We'll continue to follow updates in the Christina Formella case as they develop. If you found this story informative, please consider subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications. It helps support the work that goes into bringing you accurate, respectful coverage of real-world cases like this. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay informed, and take care of one another.